Welcome, Ralph Graves Jr. to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm excited to be here, Michael. Thank you so much for having me on the program, man.
Of course. So today I have you as a leadership multiplying coach. Can you please explain that job title and then maybe tell the world what you do and how you help?
Yeah. Well, that title, it's a mouthful for saying that we encourage leaders to multiply themselves instead of just adding. Multiplication is where it's at. If I can multiply myself in the workforce with my team, then we can all go to new heights together. So it's just leadership multiplication.
I used to be a teacher, and what I was always trying to do with the students was to make young leaders, because I understood those new minds that I was helping create were going to go off into the world and create something that I helped be a part of. And I'm sure the work that you do, helping people become leaders and then helping people get into a certain type of mindset. And today I kind of want to dive down to one of the staple crops of mindset coaching, the staple crops of life coaching. And that's going to be talking about the differences between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset type of person. And then, of course, we are going to tie it into how it plays in the role of leaderships. We can start off like, what is your definition of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset type of person?
A fixed mindset is, this is the way we've always done it. My family has done it this way for years. There's no other perspective, and it's just fixed. It's just fixed. We're going to keep running it, even if it's not working. I'm a football coach. I coached football for 25 years. We're going to run the same play over and over again. Wait a minute, coach. What are we doing? The defense keeps stopping it. That's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is simply, what do we need to do, or what do I need to do personally? I have to grow personally before I can lead anybody else to move it forward. Mm-hmm. To move the gauge forward. What must I do? I may have to change the perspective. I may have to, is there something about me? Is there something about me that's keeping a lid on where we're trying to go and what I'm trying to do? Does forgiveness have to take place? Do I have to change my mind? So a growth mindset is a mindset like water. You begin to change and flow and contour all the while rising to the occasion. So you can lead folks to a better version of themselves. But before you can lead anyone, the first person you must lead is yourself.
And I have so many ideas to where the fixed mindset kind of has taken a hold of much of society. Many people in society kind of operate under this fixed mindset, where having a growth mindset is a rare commodity nowadays. And I'm not sure if you might have some ideas of why people are more fixed mindset orientated rather than growth mindset orientated.
I think it's all of the messaging that we're receiving. We're more connected now than we've ever been. We're hooked to our phones. We're hooked to this. We understand algorithms and echo chambers. And you look at one thing and you're going to be fed tons of that one thing over and over again, to where even your mind just becomes fixed and fixated. And you'll say, well, the only way we can stop this is by doing that. And so our challenges are the same, but they're different, as in times past. But maybe it's a little more difficult with the challenge because of all of the outside messaging that we're receiving everywhere. And it'll cause us to either go on a shell or find the group that agrees with us, and we'll stick with that group. And everybody in that group has a fixed mindset. Nobody's growing.
Social media has played a big role in this, because if we look at what social media does, you become a follower. So if you're on Instagram, you follow the person. If you're on Twitter, you follow the person. Facebook, you follow the person. Even LinkedIn, you follow the person. It's always you're following someone. And it's not like you're a leader with this person or you unite with this person. It's always follow. So we are given that idea of that follow type of mentality. So we're followers. We kind of lose that leadership type of mentality, where many people would rather be followers than lead, because leadership takes more effort.
And let me say this. I don't believe social media is the enemy. I don't believe it's the devil. I think we've just used it wrong. I just think we've used it wrong. And we could have a whole show on how we used it wrong. But I think we've just been using it wrong. Like you said, man, it's every time you hit something, it's a follow, it's a follow, it's a follow. The next thing you know, you have a follower's mindset. Next thing you know, what you just said occurs. And so although it's not the devil himself, it's not completely evil, we've used it wrong. And we probably need some coaching on really how to use it right.
Right. And I'm not saying that social media is bad and people should avoid social media and that they should turn off their cell phones. I believe that people can live exactly how they want, right? If they feel like being on a social media website all day and, invigorates them and makes them happy, then go for it. At the same time, you do have to look past that moment and into your future
Yeah.
and really take a good look at your life. And sometimes people fill themselves up with distractions so they don't have to pay attention to the pain that is life and that is their inadequacies, because many people try to cover up with busy work instead of looking at their own problems and fixing their own life.
Sure, sure. I totally agree. I've been sucked down that rabbit hole on social media. Man, I tell you, you get on that TikTok and I'm laughing for an hour and a half and got nothing done.
Yeah.
So I have to turn it off and I have to move forward. But I definitely agree with what you're saying there for sure.
And then we get into the idea of social media is not bad. And then we kind of look at how society was moving over the past, let's say 100 years, right?
Yeah.
If we look at our grandparents and we will assume that they have that traditional type of role, that aspect
Mhm.
of being traditional, we look at men, how they were like chivalrous, how they were upstanding citizens, if in the sense of they wear suits, well groomed.
Yeah.
And now if we look at our young men, they're wearing baggy pants, they have their underwear showing, holes in
Yeah.
their clothes. So it's a little bit different. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't go along with the trends and the styles, but correlating our outerwear to our inner self, does that kind of reflect who we become as people?
Oh, without a doubt. I listen, where I coach leadership, talk leadership. How you dress speaks for you before you even open your mouth. Let's not ever forget that. We're casual, we're podcasting, we're YouTubing, we're casual. You and I walk in that room, you and I walk in that boardroom. You know, I was a police officer for 20 years, something called command presence. You get all eyes on me before I open up my mouth and then have something of value to say. So, yeah, how we dress, how we carry ourselves, how we walk, how our posture has everything to do with what's on the inside and what we believe, the confidence we have or the confidence we lack. So yeah, all of that plays a part. All that plays a part. I think with our grandparents, and I know I'm older than you, so your grandparent is probably my father. So so my grandparents, even a little older, they had something I think that you and I are missing out. They had stillness. They could get to a
Mm.
quiet place. They could get still. They could get in their thoughts. They could get in their journal. They could get into asking themselves the hard questions. Today we have to fight for that stillness. We get messages everywhere. Everybody's carrying the phone. Everyone gets a notification all the time. You and I have to fight for the stillness. So I think leadership training and leadership grooming and the way they carry themselves, even their way of thinking was a little bit different because they got a chance to feel that stillness and get alone with their thoughts and have some deep conversations while not looking at the phone because they just got a notification.
And that stillness actually brings in the mindfulness because they can really look at their life. They can see what
Yeah,
they have, appreciate what we have. And today, I mean, one of the things that has been forgotten is gratitude. Many
yeah,
people just take things for granted. They have a
yeah,
smartphone, they have a house, a car, and it's all taken for granted. We have Ubers now, so no one has to walk or not even take the bus really. If they don't want to, they can just take an Uber. It costs a little bit more. And if they don't want to go out to get food, they can have it delivered to their home. For me, I remember growing up, I would walk to my grandmother's house. We could take the bus, but it wasn't too far away. It was maybe like 2 miles away. So we'd walk. And for me, that was like, okay, that was enjoyable because then sometimes I get to ride my bike. But
yeah,
now it's kind of like if I had to do that now, if I was growing up today, would I do that? And if I really truly asked myself that question, the answer would be no. I would
yeah,
probably take the bus, take an Uber, something to get to that location rather than walk. Society has kind of taken the easy road when it comes to
yeah,
living
yeah.
life.
You're absolutely right. We seek comfort. But I tell you, man, there's something about that 2 mile walk. You take that 2 mile walk now. I mean, you would probably discover things about you that you only discover in that walk that we're not going to discover in that Uber. Because I had time to be alone with myself and my thoughts for 2 miles.
If I took that same walk today, meaning I already experienced it when I was younger and now I'm experiencing it again as I'm an adult, I will remember how far I have grown
Yeah,
versus me taking that walk because I didn't have a choice. Now I have cars, I have assets to get to where I need to be.
yeah,
I'm taking that walk and I'm really appreciating, wow, this walk is actually pretty tough. So I can really feel those hills. And I
yeah.
am older. So even when I was younger, I was probably like in my teens and even before that. So I'm going to feel every hill, I'm probably feel every step.
And like that walk becomes an experience. That walk turns into a page in your book. We have to live these experiences if we're going to lead. We can't lead above our experience. We can't write above our experience. We can't talk above our experience. I remember, I know we're talking about a walk, man, but I remember I'm a mountain bike rider, and I got caught in the rain one day, and it was torrential downpour. And I'm back on the trails. I'm trying to get to my car. Yeah, I was soaking wet, but it made for a great journal entry. It made for a great blog. It made for just so many things about that experience, about the trees and the roots and the water. Now, if I had missed all of that, what kind of texture and flavor would have come to my life? I would have missed it. It even helped me in leadership. Yes, there's going to be storms and we're going to get caught in them. But if we keep on the trail, we keep pushing through, we're going to get to our destination. I would have missed all of that. I couldn't talk about it, speak about it. I couldn't get on stage and motivate people without that experience of actually living it.
But then your mindset during that, though, too, your focus more so on what am I getting out of this versus my life is so terrible. I don't have an umbrella. I'm wet. I'm soaked. I'm cold.
Right.
So it's just the way we think now. It's totally different.
It is. One thing we can't control what happens, but we can control how we respond. In my book, Unstoppable, I write about the law of control. It's not about the control of other people. It's about controlling how I respond to events that are in my life. Everyone at the sound of my voice, everyone viewing this, you can control your response to anything that happens in your life. And it takes work. It doesn't just, you're not always going to respond correctly, but you are in control of that response. And it takes work and it takes maturity and it takes growing. But these are the things that'll make you into a great leader.
And what would be your definition of a great leader? Maybe the perfect leader. I know perfect is one of those terms that might be misconstrued being, oh, this person has no faults, but meaning an ideal person that you would want to follow.
Someone in the trenches with me, someone transparent about their strengths and their weaknesses, someone goal-oriented, someone who wants to lift the whole team, not just themselves. We've seen that poster that you lead from the back, not from the front. That's what a leader does. Someone in the trenches, someone who understands the human experience, someone compassionate, but at the same time, we have a goal that we're trying to reach together. And it's important to that leader, to that captain, that we all get there together. That's leadership. That's leadership.
That's one of the most difficult things that I had to learn when having my business and having employees was to be an effective leader, because I have strengths and I have weaknesses too. And there's people on my team who are going to be better fit than I am going to be for certain things. I have to understand that just because I'm the boss per se doesn't mean I'm over anyone, where it's a sense of I'm a tyrant. You're going to do what I say, how I want it. And if not, you can get out.
The boss, we use the term boss leader. It's a position. If you ever played on sports teams, we all have positions. The boss is the position, but we're all on this team together. And there are other teammates and there are other players. When you sit and I'm sure you learned it in your business, they had some ideas you might not even thought of. They might have had some good ideas because we're all on the same team and we're all trying to get there together. And a leader will bring out the best in each team player.
And that's kind of like where we are as a society, where people are so entitled to themselves. People are so self-endowed to themselves, where they want the best for them and they don't care who else suffers as long as they come out on top, as long as they are happy, as long as they are taken care of. So it's kind of like we lost that camaraderie where, like, for example, if you and I were on the same team, I'm almost certain we can find a level ground where we could say, okay, what do we need to be successful together versus I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're the problem.
You have to figure that out. Like while we're on the same team, what do we have to do to bring this team to the championship or to the next level? And we can part ways and still be very friendly, but together as a team, this is where we need to go. And we can get there. You ever notice, and I look at this concept, I look at the team concept and leadership concept and just about everything. I would watch bands or groups growing up and they were great together. Hit record after hit record after hit record. And then somebody goes off and tries to do it themselves and it just doesn't work. And they may not have gotten along. And I watch a lot of the unsung or background stuff. They didn't get along personally, but what the music that they made together elevated them to a certain status. And so they had to put down differences and let's move this thing forward. And that's what a leader, and they understands the team has differences, but let's put those differences down and let's move the gauge forward.
I believe people have difficulties today, especially today, with someone else having a different viewpoint, a different
Oh,
opinion. And
yeah,
now it's kind of like, well, if you believe this, I can't be associated with you. I can't be your friends.
yeah,
I can't be your coworker because you
yeah,
have a different belief than I do. And it's different than how we were once, where it's like you have a different view. Okay, well, let's have a conversation about it. Well, let's agree to
yeah,
disagree. Now it's kind of like I'm going to disagree and you're going to either agree with me or we're not going to be friends or we're not going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
associating with. So it's kind of like we lost the ability to be cordial with one another.
Well, it's unfortunately it's a tribal mentality now that is, we have to be a part of a certain tribe. And if you're not part of my tribe, we can't move, we can't be colleagues. And I don't use the word friends lightly. I've normalized using colleague. I normalized using associate. Friends means we're actually moving in the same direction. We might have some of the same beliefs. We can be on the same team and work together and be colleagues. It doesn't mean that we're necessarily friends, but we are colleagues and we share the same interest in moving this company, moving the team, moving the platform forward. So, yeah, it becomes difficult because we're in a very tribal mentality and a very tribal age right now. It used to be the US against the world, and now it's the US against the US. And so, depending on what tribe you're in, and that's why you got to be careful not to tell everybody your tribe. Just listen, we're going to work together on this. Don't worry about my
Right.
my beliefs here and there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Some
What
things you need to keep to yourself. You ain't got to tell everybody everything.
exactly. And what do you think is the next phase? So we kind of went from being cordial to being more tribal. What do you think is the next phase, kind of in the whole scheme of advancement as society moves and evolves?
I still think we got a long way to go with this tribal thing, but hopefully I live to see the next stage and you live to see the next stage of getting back to working together, getting back
Mm,
to loving your neighbor as yourself, getting back to serving. Well, people don't understand, and I try to get this through to folks that I work with. Jim Rohn said a long time ago, the easiest way to achieve your goals is to help as many people as you can achieve their goals. We lost the serving mentality. The quickest way to get to the level that you aspire to get to is by serving others.
mhm.
How can I help you today? Is there anything I can do to help you? Is there how can I help your goal? You'll be surprised. There's something called the law of reciprocity. Everything you put out there is coming back. The more people you help, you'll be surprised how many more people will help you.
Are you familiar with the story of Dan Millman? He's an Olympic gymnast who was injured in a motorcycle accident, and then he had to kind of go on that road to recovery and then to compete in the Olympics.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, during one of the stories, it's a book and a movie. It's called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, the book, and then the movie is called The Peaceful Warrior. In the movie, and similar to in the book, there was a scene or a line where his mentor told him that service is what service is, where service takes precedent over our own ideals. So
Yeah.
if we're really pushing to provide to others rather than just care for ourselves, we can go so much further. And I think people think that as long as their needs are met, that they're going to be satisfied. If you ask any person who has made an abundance of money and hasn't done anything with gratitude and service, they feel empty once they reach that point.
I agree. Another thing too, Michael, I don't, there's another mentality that I got to hold you down in order for me to get ahead. No, there is really, when you really understand this, there is no competition. You're your competition. There is no competition for your place in the world because there is something that only you can do. Now, we might do the same thing, but you can only do it in the way you can do it. So it doesn't pay for me to try to harm you or try to stop you. No, I want to try to elevate you.
Mhm.
I want to open the door for you. I want to pull you up. I want to elevate you because the world needs you. The world needs you. Any individual listening or watching this, the world needs you to be the best version of yourself. That's why you're here during this time. That's why you're here. And so, yeah, serving is where it's at. Serving is
Mhm.
where it's at.
And the world has transitioned to seeing someone who's on the ground, who's knocked down, who's having a rough time. We ridicule that person rather than helping them up. And there's a
Yeah,
saying, that the only time you should look down on someone is when you're about to help them up. Kind of like we need to get back to that way of living. And then I think that tribunal type of thinking and being a part of society and community will start to deteriorate slowly, because what's going
Yeah.
to happen is that people are going to realize that this leads to better results. Because right
Yeah.
now, people are just operating in their feelings and their emotions. And what that is causing is them to feel like their values and their identity is being met. And if we
Right.
look at the pillars of development, identity and values are going to be on top. As long as they have that cherry on top, they feel like they're doing, or they have some type of sense of, okay, I'm doing the right thing, but they're also not looking at their environment. They're not looking at their behavior and dealing with like their beliefs. The beliefs is kind of where it got kind of skewed. And if we look at just environment, I mean, currently in America, the environment is going to be wishy-washy depending on where you are. I mean, we have high inflation right now. We have higher costs of food, gasoline, you name it, is probably up. And so now people are struggling. So they have this inner battle within themselves where they're fighting it alone. And they believe in their head, I have to take care of me. I can't worry about someone else when I'm barely getting by.
Yeah. That's the mentality.
Mhm.
It's not the right one, but that's the one. I think we get and I'm gonna go a
Mhm.
little deeper than I thought I'd go today. I think we get into this funk or into this belief that gas is going to outprice us, or gas is going to reach a level to where I can't afford it. The economy is going to reach. Listen. There is no such thing as lack. There's no such thing as lack. Whatever the price is to be paid, you can find a way to pay the price and live in abundance. But the key is you must be willing to do the work. Like, I don't believe that there is lack. You may see, well, Ralph, there's lack all around us. No, I think there's poverty mindsets. I really do. I really do. Seeing what I've seen, I've seen some people make multi-million dollars with an eighth grade education. With eighth grade education, I've seen those with double doctorate degrees selling shoes at Dick's Sporting Goods. What's the difference?
Mhm.
Mentality. Mentality. The difference is mentality. You got one that says, I barely got out of eighth grade, but this world is so abundant, there is no lack. And so if you apply principles, if you apply universal laws are, when I call them universal laws, it's like gravity. Gravity is a universal law. Doesn't care what color you are, doesn't care about your religion, don't care where you were born and raised. As long as you respect gravity, you'll be okay. So there's laws like forgiveness. There's laws like I mentioned, reciprocity. There's laws like mental equivalency. You learn to operate within these things and operate to, laws of gratitude. You learn to respect them and operate. You will do better than well, because the laws are the laws, and there is no lack to those who really apply them to their lives. I mean, that's just, I've lived it, I've seen it, and what we have to, when we see things, we have to stop pointing at the other man. If I'm pointing at the other man, like you said, I'm pointing at him to get him some help. I'm pointing at him to see how I can serve him in that moment. But I need to be pointing at myself and asking myself, why am I lacking and living in lack the way I'm lacking? So I
Mhm.
didn't mean to go that deep today.
No. Like we have to always have a conversation, and we never know where the conversation is going here in coaching a session. It's kind of like we have a topic before we begin, we talk about it, and then we allow the flow of that conversation to lead us wherever the conversation goes, our mind goes. It kind of went full circle to think about it, from talking about fixed mindset, growth mindset, to having that deep conversation, which is a growth mindset, looking at the growth mindset type of thing, where
Yeah,
we can look at money as being abundant, or we can look at it as being scarce. And
yeah,
sometimes people think that success is not for them, or that there's not enough success to go around. So
yeah,
they won't go after that success. They won't go after more money, or
yeah,
they won't go after that promotion or that date or whatever it be, because they feel like they are inadequate. That inadequacy has taken over so many people. And it's kind of like that fear of failure, right?
yeah,
Most people who have the fear of failure, that's a make believe fear, because when we're born, we're only born with the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. So any other fear that we give ourselves, we are inflicting that upon ourselves. And many people, when it comes to the fear of failure, that is what's going to stop them from success, from abundance, from happiness. And they
yeah,
look for a little hole, a little spot in the world where they can feel comfortable, where they can feel that like they can be themselves, where they don't want to push too hard, but they push just enough where they say, okay, I'm doing all I can, even though that's so far from the truth.
You're exactly right, man. I have a saying that I tell people: if you say so, whatever you say is so.
Mm-hmm.
If you say so, if it's lack everywhere, if it's scarcity everywhere, then that's what you're going to experience. If you say so. If you look out there and you see abundance everywhere, that will be your experience if you say so.
What are some tips that you have for getting in a growth mindset if someone's maybe operating in the fixed mindset realm? What are
Yeah.
ways that they can be more growth mindset? And it could be small. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, you have to get a coach or anything and spend all this money on a program. It could be just writing in a journal.
Read. As simple as that. If you can read, read. Read a page a day, 2 pages a day. There's so many phenomenal books that'll get you in the proper mindset. So many. I mean, of course, I got to push mine, but there are other ones too. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many. There's thousands of books. You may say, I don't like to read. The only difference between a person, matter of fact, there is no difference between the person who won't read and the person who can't read. There's no difference between the two of you. So learn to read. Read 1 page a day, 2 pages a day, but read something that will kind of shift your mindset and motivate you to start moving forward. It's simple as smile. If you smile, even if no one sees it, your mind recognizes your smile. And then it develops the attitude that you need to have for the rest of the day. I know that sounds corny, but it's the truth.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
When I was in elementary school, I did not like reading. It was because of a lack. I wasn't good at English. I was good at numbers, like math and everything. But when it
Yeah.
came to English, just wasn't good at it. So I was self-conscious about reading. And it wasn't until like high school, college, when I started to become more confident in my reading and my writing capabilities,
Yeah.
that I enjoy reading. And then I think it was like after college, after all the reading the books and all the papers and essays, it was like I read, I think like 1 year, like 100 books or something like that. And it
Wow.
was it was just like I was in love with it at that
Yeah.
point, where sometimes people think that, oh, I don't like reading. And then that's kind of like what they keep for us. Like if they don't like a certain type of food, well, your taste buds change. And
Yeah.
similar to how our mind changes and evolves as we grow and mature, we have different experiences. So now we
Yeah.
might be operating under a different state of mind, a mindset, because we had some experiences that made us think in a certain way. And people might be thinking of their elementary school self or their younger
Yeah.
self, and
Yeah.
they're not looking at their adult self. So my adult self loves reading. If I could read all day long, I would. But I mean, I can't be reading when I'm talking to clients and things like that. That's just rude. And I'm not going to be paying attention. But there's so much knowledge. And having people like you who wrote a book, and then other, wonderful authors, motivational speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs, all of them have different unique stories. And I am 100% certain that if a person reads enough books, they're going to get enough nuggets of wisdom, each of those books, and eventually is going to compile into a huge wealth of knowledge that they're finally going to say, I got it.
Yeah. Some of my mentors are men and women I've never met. They've been authors.
Mhm.
Let these authors mentor you. Everything you experience in life, somebody wrote about it already. Somebody wrote about it. I'm just being honest. You're not going to live an experience that someone hasn't written about.
And one of the things for me, like I think it was in 2016, where I was reading a lot of personal development books, a lot of growth mindset books. One book didn't do it. Then I read the next book, it didn't do it. But what those books were doing for me, I was compiling a bunch of wealth of data and
Sure.
knowledge. So when I
Sure.
finally got to the book that changed my whole life, someone asked me, what book changed your whole life? I said, this book. I give them the book, right?
Yeah.
And they read the book. Oh, it didn't change my life. Well, it's because they didn't have the knowledge beforehand. So we
Right.
do have to understand that you can read one book, and that is going to be better than reading no books. But you should get into the state of mind of reading multiple personal development books. And then you can kind of pick the genre of what you want. Like it could be about being entrepreneurial, starting businesses, and then reading
Yeah.
those type of books. If that's your flavor, if you like books on charity and helping people, read those type of books. And then you're going to see that the stories within those books are not just about charity. It can be about their personal life and their personal growth. And then you can relate that to yourself and to your life. And then you can kind of grow from that.
I have a rule of thumb, and let me kind of piggyback on what you said. No, it didn't. You might have read a book that really affected you, and you gave it to them. Their season of life might not have been right. The situation might not have been right. I read a book through, especially if I really like it. Matter of fact, I have one book I've been reading for 20 years and I read it 3 times a year. I often say you don't really get the meat of the book. This is what I do. I get a book and I'll read it one time. Second time I go through and highlight it and take all my notes. Third time, I really let it speak to me even more. I begin to journal from it. To me, I don't really think you get all the meat of the book until you've been through it 2 or 3 times. But one book that changed my life was by a mentor, and I'm a fan of his. I got a chance to talk to him, named Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. It's called What Makes the Great Great. And I was in my patrol car, and I was a young man, about 25, 26, and it changed my life. Outside of the Bible, of course, I pastor a church, but outside of the Bible, I read What Makes the Great Great by Dennis Kimbrough, and it changed my life. I still read it. I have a copy here at the office. I have a copy here at the house. At the house, and so there are some things that speak into you and speak to your life like that. So, if you read through it once, just don't throw it away. Let me go back to it. I might have missed something. You get some nuggets out of that thing. I'm hoping people are reading my book a couple times.
What's one of the lessons that you learned in that book that you put into Unstoppable?
Probably forgiveness. Understanding what it really was, what it really is. Understanding that not only do I have to forgive other people, I have to forgive myself. Understanding that forgiveness doesn't mean I agree with what you did or what happened. I'm just saying that it will no longer control me. And understanding how poisonous unforgiveness is. 99% of the people we're mad at don't know and they don't care, but we're mad at them. We're holding our breath. Unforgiveness is like holding my breath and expecting you to pass out. No, I'm going to pass out so I had to learn to. So it was a big thing for me, forgiveness and things like that. Yeah. Law of habit was really good too.
And it's like anger too. It's going to be similar to like if I'm angry at a person or if I have anger within me, it's hurting me, not them.
Yeah, without a doubt. I believe, listen, anger is an emotion. All emotions were given to us as signals, but not to hold on to.
It's that balance though, right? Where it's kind of like even happiness is one of those things where if you're asked if you're happy, if I ask, hey, Ralph, are you happy? You might say, yeah, I'm here with you today. But then if I ask, are you truly happy? You might have to think about it. You might say, well, you know what? Like my back kind of hurts. So, I'm feeling a little pain. Maybe you're stressed out. You have a bunch of office work that you have to get done. So you're just thinking about that. So you're not being present in the moment. So happiness might be for you at that time just to not have any more work, just to be free and to be still, kind of like how our grandparents were. They had that chance to be still, where we're living in a world where we're so busy and we don't have that ability sometimes.
And our emotions are roller coasters because we're so connected. We'll get mad at something that happened in Japan, where years ago it took them 3 weeks to even find out what happened in Japan. We can find out in 6 seconds.
Yeah. It's that overload where people just have to sometimes relinquish that ability to be in control of everything, because when you're trying to control everything, you control nothing. And then understanding that you can make a difference, even if it's one step at a time, if it's helping one person at a time. I think we try to make such a big splash or a big impact immediately where we're not appreciating the journey. And sometimes the journey starts off slow and it can pick up, but everyone is looking for that instant gratification, that fame, that, give me my fame immediately. If we're looking at where we are today, it's causing a lot of people a lot of sadness because they're not getting what they want immediately. There's a lot of hard work in between their goal and what they're doing right now. And so many people are going to be unhappy. So that happiness is going to be that goal for them. They're like, well, I'll be happy when, right? So they place contingencies on their happiness. And, for me, that kind of goes into that fixed mindset of like, I'm in this state of mind and I won't be happy until it's changed, until something is changed, versus a growth mindset, saying what we have around us, saying, okay, I enjoy this, and then kind of making adjustments from there. And then you could be more aligned to happiness.
I agree. That's good stuff, man.
But I mean, like the conversation, like you and I had was about growth, fixed mindset, leadership, all of that kind of is the umbrella of mindset, and it's going to be the umbrella of growth. Tell people where they can find you. And then, of course, like, plug your book. I will put all the descriptions in the box below so they can easily check you out. I do believe that they will get something from reading your book.
Well, thank you for saying that, man. I really appreciate you saying that. The name of the book is called Unstoppable. You go to my website and get it, Ralph at ralphgravesjr.com. You go to Barnes & Noble and order it. Anywhere where booksellers are selling books, you can order Unstoppable by ralphgravesjr.com. 7 universal laws that'll change the way that you understand and pursue success. But yeah, everything is found on my website, Ralph at ralphgravesjr.com. There are training sessions. I have free courses you can sign up for. There's paid coaching sessions. There's phone calls. There's paid courses, all those things. You can follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter, all of the social media platforms that I try to use correctly. You can find me out there, and I'll be looking forward to developing a relationship with you all in any kind of way you need me to. Ralph at ralphgravesjr.com.
Mm-hmm. And if you had one thing to say to the audience, to say to someone who's maybe going through a rough time right now, what would that be?
If they're going through a rough time, hang in there, persevere, and watch your mouth. And when I say watch your mouth, because if whatever you say, that's what it's going to be. Whatever you say, I'll never get out of this. Well, then that's what it's going to be. But I'm going to overcome this. Then that's what it's going to be. So that's what I want to say to you.
All right. Perfect. I want to thank you so much, Ralph Graves Jr., for coming on Coaching in Session. Just the short conversation that we had today was insightful. It was direct to the point. Growth mindset, fixed mindset, leadership, and then understanding where we are today as a society. Where we could be tomorrow as a society depends on what we do today. And even though we might not make a big impact, even though we might be changing one person at a time, that change is going to be relevant in the whole scheme of things if everyone can get on the same page, work on having a growth mindset, work on being a leader, and not so much of finding enemies in everyone that we meet.
I had an awesome time here, man. Thank you for introducing me to your wonderful audience.